Ayurvedic eating is really kind of what the whole thing, we have several habits that cover that. And Ayurveda is really into eating because everything is about the guts, about the gut and about digestion. It takes a very holistic view of eating. So we're talking about, with this one habit, what to eat. And even then, there's not a one size fits all diet, which is pretty cool. That was another thing another Ayurvedic person talked about in the workshop I was listening to. And Bonnie, you'd like it too. So I'm going to post the link for this if you guys want to join. It's free and you can upgrade, but you can listen in for free. But she was talking about how we're all unique, and your constitution determines the diet that's good for you. So, you know, there's generalities like eat local, eat fresh, seasonal. You know, you can use this and this for that and that, and the 6 tastes and that. But if you're a Vata, there's different spices and different vegetables and ways of eating that are going to be beneficial for you versus if you're a Kapha or a Pitta, or if you're a Kapha in Vata season or a Pitta in Pitta season. It's a dynamic thing, which is pretty cool because that's how life is dynamic. And since the universe is life positive, I figure that's probably closer to reality than all these diets that are one size fits all and it doesn't matter. And one of the things that came up in my reading is that it really matters how your food is raised, which means that organic isn't necessarily a gold standard. It's better than GMO and corn syrup and everything soy, but it's not perfect either. How your food is raised has everything to do with the nutrient density, with the stress hormones, be they plants or animals. And stress hormones affect so much of the cellular makeup in the body. It can even be hanging out yet in the meat. If the animal experienced a lot of adrenaline as it was killed, that's still in there. If in the fields there's a lot of upset and the people that are, cutting the celery are migrants that are suffering from pesticide poisoning, or they're sick, or stresses, or all these things the plants respond to, and it's there in it. So it seems kind of woo-woo, but when you start talking about hormones and you realize how those are in the body, in the plants, we know that plants experience stress and they thrive or they don't thrive depending on their environment. And then you layer in as well all the toxins that may or may not be in your food. These are all things to consider. They affect your internal world as far as how well you can digest and how well your cells are nourished by your food. They affect your immediate environment because what your family eats, that sets up all sorts of dynamics. If you garden, if you support your local environment with, CSA or farmer's market, and your farmer and it's all good. And it ripples out. It's a very holistic world that starts with the micro in your cells all the way out to the hugest macro, that industrial farming affects the whole world, especially as they're shipping all over and they're sending GMO seeds every place and they're applying Roundup all over. India is producing more food than ever, and they have a cancer train now that goes from the outlying areas and takes all these people from the rural areas in for treatment for cancer and then back out every day. They didn't have that before. So how you spend your dollars supporting that or supporting a local farmer or growing it in your own, these all have huge implications, both for you physically, personally, cellularly, and by extension, then your children and grandchildren, all the way out to the whole world. It's a really cool, big thing. And when we start talking about this plant-centered diet, that all plays in. So cool stuff. That's your big thought for the day. So then we have spices and combinations, food combining. Which do you want to start with? They kind of go back and forth, but where do you want to start, Bonnie? Spices or food combinations?
Oh, let's start with spices.
All right.
What spices?
Whoops, I needed to change the share. Spices are cool. Really cool. They are considered a medicine. Spices mostly are seeds. There it is. Usually. So when we talked last week about all the plant parts, these are seeds. The plant has totally invested all its life energy into that seed. So it's a huge bundle of energy and life force for you. Spices are best left 6 to 12 months because of that. Because it wanes over time, just like the leftovers in your refrigerator do. But they are really huge to do a lot of things. Digestion being the biggest thing in Ayurveda, spices are the go-to to perk up your digestion. When we talked about the 6 tastes last week, spices a lot of times fill in the blanks with pungent, oh, I have them up in my other share because I knew I'd forget them some. Pungent and bitter and astringent and sour. A lot of the spices can fill in there. My weed flavors, I realized, fill in a lot of that as well. I have wood sorrel that's a sour. Dandelion is very, very bitter. It can also be somewhat astringent, as can lamb's quarter. So there's a bunch of them that help fill in that flavor profile, and spices are the go-to to help do that as well. The 4 main ones are the coriander, cumin, fennel, and turmeric. And then ginger. Those are like the gold spices. If you only could have a few, those would be the ones. They fill in everything. Coriander helps to offset spicy food and protect you from acidity, binds toxins, calms the mind, relieves gas and constipation. Cumin helps to eliminate toxins and congestion. It feeds your friendly gut bacteria and helps with nutrient absorption. Fennel helps to balance your digestion, increasing or decreasing acidity as needed. One of the things with food combining is that some foods are more acidic and some are more alkaline. If you eat them together, your digestion doesn't know what to do. And it can't adjust so that it digests both of them well. Fennel is a great one to help it decide which way to go. You can also use fennel as a antacid, or if your stomach's upset, if you just suck on a few fennel seeds under your tongue. It's amazing. Have you guys ever grown fennel or had it from a farmer's market? Oh, it's an amazing, yummy, yummy plant. You should sow it in your greenhouse, Bonnie, because you could do it in the fall. Let's see, Rachel sowed ours in the fall and it didn't really do anything until the spring. But if you sowed it now, you'd have it for the fall. And you can eat the greens off it, and then it makes a white bulb.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, and you can keep cutting the greens. It looks almost like dillweed, the greens do at the top.
Uh-huh.
And it's really good. And it brings the effects of fennel without them being the seed, but then you get that through the summer. When you don't want, right? So as we talk about the different doshas and energies, through the summer, your seasonings, your spices need to be really simple. So that's where using the more mild herbs, using cilantro, which is the plant that makes coriander, using the fennel plant, parsley, those greens are very summer appropriate. And then through the winter, you get the coriander and the fennel seeds that really pack that punch that you need in the cold, dark months.
Yeah, I just harvested some parsley today.
Oh yeah, parsley's awesome. We can talk about that later because I have my stuff to talk, but then we can just talk about this. And I have my books. So we can reference, and this book has all sorts of stuff in it. So yeah, so these spices, turmeric is like the all-purpose one in Ayurvedic cooking. It helps cleanse and break down fat in the liver, so your liver functions better. Amanda, I bet your body would be so happy with tons of turmeric. I don't think you could eat too much.
I love it.
Yes, I bet. Plus the anti-inflammatory qualities.
Now, turmeric is something I'm still having an issue with. I mean, I've been using it for years in a lot of different foods, but to do it like with the mud water, I find it difficult. It's just that taste to me is a little strong. And so it kind of turns me away from that. But I keep trying it every once in a while, hoping to get my taste buds to change and get used to it. But yeah, it's a difficult one for me, and I've never had anything more difficult than that. I mean, I like its benefits, but the flavor is just not my thing.
Do you make your mud water, or are you talking about the store-bought mud water?
The store-bought.
What you can do is add just a little bit more cacao powder.
Okay.
And it helps mask the turmeric if it's too strong for you. Just slightly, and the cacao's already in there, so it's already got health benefits, skin benefits, nutrient content. So just a potential option.
Yep. And you could add a chai tea bag. That'll add some of the other spices, and you can kind of make your own, but then just use a little of the mud so you get the mushrooms and the other stuff, and a little tiny bit of turmeric. I have one son that won't eat orange food, so I have to either sneak it in or not put it in. Turmeric, this doesn't show up in all the Ayurvedic recipes, but you need a little bit of black pepper with it to help do the lock and key thing and really unlock turmeric in your body. If you look at, I think it's in the mud, I was noticing yesterday.
What you doing?
Chai teas, they've got black pepper in them. So that unlocks it. Ginger is an amazing thing. It strengthens the digestive circulatory systems, again, breaks down fat in the stomach. relieves constipation, decreases inflammation and mucus, antiviral. It's like the universal thing because it supports so much and brings so much in your body into balance.
So if you put pepper into something with turmeric, like a meal, it enhances the nutrients of turmeric or the absorption of turmeric.
Uh-huh.
Yep. And it doesn't take much.
I'm gonna try that.
Yeah, just a tiny bit, really. If you look at the recipe, and this is off my blog, and then I have recipes for the spiced honey and the fall sweet spice mix. You'd see it's like, you know, in that spiced honey, it's something like 3/4 of a cup of turmeric and a half teaspoon.
Thing goes on
quarter teaspoon. Yeah. So, yep. You can put ginger with it.
Can you put those recipes up as well so that I can pull those down when I get home?
Yep. Yep.
Thank you. Yeah,
Duly
because I love
noted.
the spice honey. I do enjoy that. I put it in my chai tea.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's my favorite.
So then you're kind of making mud without the cocoa. So cacao, you're good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some of my other favorite spices that are really basic ones in the Ayurveda. And then if you look in the cookbooks that are in the resources, I've got What to Eat for How You Feel and Eat and Feel Fresh. I don't use the recipes in them at all, but they have so much information in them. They're like a textbook. The other really good ones, cardamom is amazing. It helps calm the nerves, aids digestion, and helps pull toxins out. A lot of these, and it has to do with the taste. Remember we talked about the pungent and astringent and the bitter. Help squeeze the tissues, move things out, acting as diuretics and all of that. So a lot of these spices, that's part of their function. Cinnamon, cloves, nutmeg, and cardamom and ginger. Those they're almost like a pumpkin pie spice. Right. And the reason why you love it in the fall and winter, they're so perfect. They're very warming. They perk up your digestion when you're in that vata and then kapha season. And digestion is either wavery, unpredictable, or just dampened down. So you perk it up big time. Cinnamon helps with coughs and colds. Cloves soothe coughs and strengthen the circulatory system. Nutmeg and mace, interestingly enough, is a relative of nutmeg. It's just more. It shows up in a lot of my sausage recipes, so that's how I came across it. But nutmeg and mace calm the mind, promote good sleep, again, relieving coughs and colds, increase nutrient absorption in the colon, supports men's energy. My guys love nutmeg. And decreases morning sickness. So, Alyssa, next time around, nutmeg and parsley, your best buddies ever.
See, cardamom is a conundrum for me. I love cardamom, but to me, I mean, I keep hearing you and pretty much everyone else say that it's warming, but to me, it's like a citrus scent. It's almost sweet.
Yeah, it is. Okay, so cardamom is sweet and pungent and has a post-digestive effect as a sweet.
Okay. Right. So I'm tasting it right then. Okay.
Yep.
I get like a citrusy, sweet citrusy kind of flavor.
Right. And so that would be the sweet and the pungent. Exactly. Yep.
Not crazy. Ooh.
Right. So not a great, the warming ones, unless you have a lot of vata or kapha. That's why I say these are really great. These are like pumpkin pie spice. So they have their season in the fall and winter. In the summer, they're warm, like cardamom is sweet. That will increase pitta. So it increases heat in the body. That's what all of these do, because they really hit your digestion to perk it up, improving circulation. They get things going, which is what you want, but not so much in the summer. So I like to use them because I just kind of drive my system crazy, and they are very nice and calming and warm and all, but not as much in the summer as in the winter. So these guys here work any time of year. And like I said, when you use in season, cilantro, then you have cumin, fennel plant. It's an amazing plant. You'll notice it's much more mild than the seeds. So even if you don't care for fennel seeds, you might like the fennel plant. And then turmeric and ginger, they can just about go in anything. They go well. Ginger, can go savory or sweet. Turmeric, it can go in anything savory. So one of their functions, besides awakening digestion, balancing everything out, balancing your palate, balancing your plate so that you have all 6 tastes, because health is about having all 6 tastes on your plate in any given meal, as opposed to having all the food groups. The food groups will come into play, which doesn't really matter, more in the realm of food combining and understanding that each food has its taste, and you can use these spices to balance it so that you have a balanced diet, a balanced nourishment on your plate for every meal, even if it's not perfectly balanced. So for Mark, with his heavy meat, I throw my CCF seasoning on it a lot of the time to help promote digestion. Cilantro is fabulous with meat. Again, because it balances digestion and helps protect from acidity. Meat is highly acidic. So we're using spices to balance things out. Okay, now give me a new share. If we go to the food combining, these start to kind of overlay. And I already mentioned, we talked about the 6 tastes and how that layers in with your spices. Let's see, this is the one I really liked. Amanda, in the 2.0 in Thinkific, I made a lesson with a whole pile of resources on this.
Okay.
So you can go through and look in there and get a bunch of stuff. So
Will do.
comes to combining food, there's a few basic rule of thumbs. And then what we'll do is go through these different foods and just identify different dishes that we're familiar with and kind of play with it by bringing in the familiar to think about, well, what works so good, what works not so good, why not, and go from there. So the basic things up there, keeping your proteins simple and separate. Meats are acidic and they're sweet and they're very heavy. You can differentiate a bit between the red meats, which are super all that, and fish and chicken, which are much lighter, less heavy, making chicken and fish a better choice in the summer and the spring. And red meats, which is when you would process them in the fall and through the winter. So bringing in seasonality, but they really like to be by themselves. They don't get along real well, super well with everything. Dairy is very antisocial. You remember in the Old Testament, it said not to cook a kid in its mother's milk. In other words, don't mix your proteins and your dairies. They do not get along because they're very, very similar. So it's sort of like an overload, and it creates an imbalance in your system. Dairy is good warm. So having a cold glass of milk out of the refrigerator is going to be hard to digest. But if you warm it and you spice it, those spices, remember, help prick up digestion. So that's where golden milk comes in. If you have golden milk, you've got your turmeric and your ginger. You can add ginger to it. I a lot of times make it with my warming spices. So it warms everything up, perks up digestion, and then add turmeric for the golden. It helps bring in all those spices so that you can digest it and process it. Cheese is another kind of antisocial one. Doesn't actually get along with very many of the things that we put it with. It does get along with leafy greens. So like cheese and broccoli, that's cool. A cheeseburger, you have just created the world's best gut bomb right there. Doesn't work out. The heavier the food, the heavier it can be on your digestion. So sometimes you want heavier food, like in the fall when it's vata, it's cold, it's dry, it's windy, variable. That red meat, that heaviness and density helps ground you. Through the winter, same thing. In the summer, you don't want that heaviness. You may be in a state in your life. You may have a moment when you need that heaviness and then not the next day. So it's just being aware of it. And then fruit. Fruit is anti-social in the extreme. Gets along with grains? No. Right? Yeah. We'll find out. Melon in particular is extremely antisocial. It's sort of the cranky hermit of the food world. It's because fruit is very sweet, very light, very liquid. So it goes through very fast. If you eat it with anything else almost, it gets slowed down. And when it's slowed down, it does what sweet fruit does. It ferments in your gut, which creates gas, creates bacteria you don't want in there, creates all sorts of havoc. Very antisocial. So makes a good meal all by itself, makes a great snack, but fruit and yogurt is a super bad idea. Fruit salad at all the picnics will mess you up. It's just how fruit is. It's extremely antisocial. Green leafy vegetables, non-starchy vegetables, they go with everything. They're like the world's best friend. So they get along everywhere. Your spinach omelets are great. Meat and salad is super. Meat with wilted greens is super. They just love everybody. So those are the basic things. If you just grab hold of those few things, or one of those few things, you'll be off to a good start. So this was an interesting thing to play with, though, as I did this. We'll hold off on that one. So beans, dried beans, they are a legume, very starchy. They get along with grains, vegetables. This one doesn't differentiate starchy and non-starchy. Other beans, nuts, seeds, so oily things. They don't get along with fruit, milk, cheese, yogurt, eggs, meat, and fish. Okay, suggestions. What jumps to mind as either super dishes with this or not super dishes with this that we have typically?
Can you say that again? You broke up. Sorry.
That's okay. So thinking about what they get along with and what they don't get along with, what are some dishes that we eat with beans? And are they compatible, incompatible? What makes them work or not work? What are some bean dishes?
Oh, my vegetarian tacos, which I absolutely love with greens and anything green on it. Even carrots, root vegetables.
Beans and roots, okay. Yeah, so so if you have a bean taco, you got your greens, a corn shell or corn chips.
Yep.
Yep. So that would be a grain, I believe. You put cheese on it?
Sometimes, most of the time, no.
Okay.
And then salsa, which is all those lovely vegetables.
Right. Often with a lot of cilantro in it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So there you go. That's a great one. The first thing that came to my mind was a burrito, or, the usual Mexican.
Right.
Which is where you put beans with meat and cheese. Yep. But one of the interesting things that Mexican dishes do is incorporate a lot of black pepper, chili peppers, and cayenne. So this is where your spices come in to help balance things out. And even if you have incompatible foods, it can help you survive and it can help make it work. So you add the cilantro with Mexican, the heat of the chili peppers and the black pepper, and it helps balance all that out. Still a gut bomb, but your digestion can handle it, which was kind of interesting. Oh, butter and ghee especially, but butter, that goes with just about anything. It says butter may not combine as universally as ghee, but it depends on your system, and everything goes back to your gut. So like Bonnie was saying, if turmeric doesn't entirely agree, go light or find other spices that do agree and do work for you. So cheese gets along with grains and vegetables, doesn't get along with fruit, beans, eggs, milk, yogurt, and hot drinks. I don't know how that works if you melt the cheese. Maybe it gets along with hot drinks. But one of the food things is not combining hot drinks with cold food or vice versa. So keeping your temperatures uniform between your liquids and your solids. But so what's an example of a cheese dish? Works or not works? You're it, Bonnie, because it looks like Amanda, she's traveling, so we'd lost her.
Well, let's see, chili cheese fries, not chili cheese fries. Well, that too.
Sure, chili cheese
yeah.
fries.
Chili cheese fries, chili cheese, and corn chips.
Yeah.
Something I've been splurging on lately, and I shouldn't have been.
Well, so possibly the chips and cheese, if you got grains and cheese, that would probably, but the chili cheese fries, you got a starch and a meat together. They don't get along at all. And then you got meat and cheese, don't get along at all. Possibly beans in the chili. Who doesn't get along with any of those? So you got the perk of the spices that help, but yeah, chili cheese fries, that one will reach out and bite you. Yep. And sometimes it comes down
Sure does.
yeah. Making informed choices. That's what it sometimes comes down to. Because chili cheese fries are good, but yeah, a lot of good reasons. Milk, best enjoyed alone, rather antisocial. Doesn't get along with especially bananas, because bananas are sour, and any other sour fruits, yeasted breads, eggs, yogurt, meat, fish, kitchery, and any starches. So like the potatoes, mashed potatoes, you add milk, right? And butter, the butter you can maybe get away with. Milk, not so much. Not so much. Bananas are sour, which I didn't think of, but then I don't care to eat bananas. So it sets up like you get sour milk in your stomach, just like if you put lemon and milk on the counter, it sours. Yogurt goes with grains and vegetables, does not get along with fruit, beans, milk, eggs, cheese, meat, nightshades, hot drinks. What's an example of a yogurt dish? What comes to mind right off for me is all the packaged yogurts with fruit in them, fruit on the bottom yogurt.
I was just gonna say granola and yogurt is what I like to do.
Yeah, that's a good one. That works. And dried fruit, it gets along with for whatever reason. So raisins, go for the raisins. Skip the strawberries or blueberries or whatever. Yep. Eggs. This has been kind of sad to me, but this is again where you can use the spices to balance a dish and use your healthier eating guidelines to balance things out and allow your body to move everything through and give it space to reignite the fire after you feed it something that's really nasty. So with eggs, they get along with grains and non-starchy vegetables. So all of the leafy vegetables, broccoli, cauliflower, all of those ones that are non-starchy. Doesn't get along with milk, cheese, yogurt, fruit, beans, potatoes, meat, and fish. So that lovely Western omelet that I love with, sausage and cheese, and they use the milk to make the egg nice and soft with hash browns.
I'm glad I'm not the only one.
Yeah. So interesting.
Yeah, we all fall, right?
Yeah, I do love it. I just know that if I have it help. Drinking coffee kind of helps because it provides some acid and some heat, some warming. So it warms things back up. And I just don't eat again until I'm hungry, which probably won't be till supper because it's going to take that long for my body to clear everything, clean up the mess, and reignite the fire. So it's just a thing to know. But put it with spinach, or one of my favorites is to spiralize zucchinis or summer squashes and then make an omelet with that. Add some coriander, cumin, fennel, and you're gold. Your eggs are great. Okay, fruit we talked about. Lemons. Remember, it's a really sour taste. So it can be okay because it adds that sour if it's used more as a garnish or flavoring. Like when you spritz fish with lemon. Doesn't get along with cucumbers, tomatoes, milk, yogurt. That's lemons. Melons, highly antisocial. Doesn't get along with everything. Except other melons. Grains. Get along, don't get along with fruit, but do get along with everything else. Which is good news. Let's see. Vegetables do not get along with fruit and milk. And there's some differentiation when you dig a little deeper between starchy vegetables and non-starchy vegetables. Starchy vegetables include potatoes, sweet potatoes, corn. I forget some of the other ones. They do not get along with meat at all. Starchy vegetables, winter squash, potatoes, sweet potatoes. A lot of the roots are starchy. They're heavier. A lot of times they're kind of sweet. So they have a lot of similar qualities to meat, and they create an imbalance. But any of the other vegetables go great. So what are some, just throw out some vegetable dishes.
Baked squash. Make an acorn squash or something.
Yep, that would be a starchy one. Does great with butters. Yep, and leafy greens. They get along with about any other vegetable. Not so much with starchies, again, don't get along with meat very well because they're too opposite.
That's why a big steak and dinner to dinner would be a little heavy.
Yeah, very heavy. Culturally, a lot of our cultural foods, you know, hamburger and fries, really hard on the digestion.
Yeah, one of the most common meals.
Yeah,
Especially for those on the go.
absolutely, right. It's just meat and potatoes. A lot of our culture is built around that.
Yep.
Potato salad at the cookout. Yep. On the other hand, if you wanted to mix things up, broccoli and cheese, cauliflower and cheese, that works great. meat and salad. If you had a hamburger, the bread thing gets a little dicey. I find wraps work okay. I can do it with wraps, and then lots of greens. You can do that.
Yeah, thanks for reminding me, Jill. I forgot I needed to get my vegetable wraps. I got flour tortillas the other day, but forgot my vegetable one.
Oh, bummer. Yep. Almost to the end. Nightshades. Hot drinks. So, like I said, Ayurveda isn't it's holistic. So we're looking at qualities and we're looking at taste. That's really what it comes down to with all of these. If we had a chart, which there are out there, but we didn't look at them, with the qualities and the taste, it would even make a whole lot more sense why they fit together or don't fit together. Acidic and alkaline. There's a lot of reasons why they fit and don't fit. And it's in, maybe I'll share that lesson over, Bonnie, into your lessons too, because there's a lot of information there that just helps all the pieces fit together. And once you understand how they fit together too, and how the spices can help balance the plate out, balance the dish, so that it could work, possibly. It's one reason that Mexican has so much cilantro and so much spice in it, because they got beans and meat together. It's what they're doing. So, hot drinks don't go well. Typically, yogurt's cold. I'm not sure why meat and fish, I'd have to look that up in starches. Typically goes with hot foods. You wouldn't have it with cold foods. If the hot drink is, say, golden milk, though, it's got the spices again. So it's a little more flexible. Leftovers don't mix with freshly cooked foods. So I used to love to take previously cooked vegetables and use them to make an omelet. Just fine. It's a way to get the vegetables in. But when you really want to digest well, it's not a great idea. Ideally, just reheat the same meal. You can possibly put other meals together, but not bringing in fresh stuff. So not leftover meat with a fresh salad. That doesn't work out so good. This says preferably not more than 24 hours old, but just keep in mind, it'll lose all of its life before it goes bad. So if it's more than a few days, give it to the chickens. And then the same is true with raw food. Typically, raw gets along with raw. If you're gonna go raw, go raw. In Ayurvedic thought, they don't like raw food. And a lot of the people said, well, some of that's cultural because of the toxins and pollutions and whatnot in the Indian soils. I don't know. When you look at the qualities, they tend to be colder, drier, rougher. So balancing that with their sweets, you want to make sure you got the balance there with your qualities. Any questions? What comes to mind? This is a really huge thing. It's a lot to absorb and adjust and think about. So the basic thing in looking at all of it, though, is just to start small. Kaizen, pick one little thing. Remember the healthier eating guidelines, healthier eating practices can help buffer bad combinations. When you eat can buffer. If you have your cheeseburger and fries for lunch, it's going to sit a whole lot differently in your system than if you eat it for supper. A Western omelet at 10 or 11 o'clock will digest way differently than at 7 or 8 o'clock. So all of these things layer over each other to promote digestion or lack thereof, but they're all tools that you can use. So thoughts, Bonnie, after all of that?
Oh, sure. Put me on the spot.
But you're the only other one here.
Oh, she left, huh?
Yeah,
Okay.
Amanda was driving, so she probably just hit one of those spots that happen.
Oh, yeah. Drop call. Yep.
Yep.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm glad I did make it in today because I have been having a lot of thought in regards to turmeric and other spices about learning more, you know, kind of expanding my horizons on them. I mean, I have some that I use, and but yeah, I want to be able to learn more about each one, and gradually add them in.
Right.
Not just as, you know, into something, you know, into my my everyday diet type of thing, but you know, into my life itself by growing them. That's my goal, is I want to be able to learn about each one and you know, have them here as if it's my own child, you know, take care of it as my own child.
Absolutely. So what ones do you use right now?
Rosemary is one I actually use a lot. Parsley we use a ton of, but I haven't really grown them a lot. I've tried. This year is actually probably about my best year I've had with it so far. I wish now I would have done a couple more tubs of them as well as they're going. It's like, oh man, I could really share this now. But yeah, what was the other one I got out there? Oh, I got 2 different types of peppermint this year. I got a chocolate peppermint and then a regular peppermint. I harvested some of that chocolate peppermint today so I can try a tea.
Ooh, nice.
I love the smell of it. It smells just like a York peppermint patty. It's like, oh, I can't wait to try it.
Ooh, that will make a nice tea.
Yeah. And then I have, gosh, I can't even remember what the other one was. Oh, I got lavender. I finally had lavender bloom this year for the first time.
Ooh, nice.
So.
Yeah.
Oh, they're around here, Justin. They've decided to take free range of my entire yard. So.
There you go. Yeah.
Kind of what I wanted them to do, because I have that fire ant issue down there, and the guineas found it yesterday. So yes.
Ooh, good for them. Yeah. Yeah.
So they'll start eradicating that problem.
Yeah. So if you wanted to start with a couple that I know you would like, and that, like I said, you can propagate them all the way through, would be cilantro and add cilantro and fennel.
Yeah, I've got a bag of fennel here, but I have not actually tried it yet. I think it was because I just wasn't fully aware of what fennel could do. And it's one I have not really researched hardly anything at all on yet. So I'm glad you brought that up. But I do have one question in regards to ginger. Now, I was always told that, and I don't remember if it was a kidney problem or if it was for a liver issue, but if you had one or the other, you should not use ginger. I heard that many years ago when I just kind of like backed off from using it, because I used to love like ginger snap cookies or something like that, especially homemade ones. Which is very hard to find anyone that makes them homemade. So, but yeah, so I just kind of like backed off. It's like, I mean, I was told that I had a little bit of kidney issues as well as some liver issues years ago. So when I found that out, I've just backed off. So
yeah, I would say, I'm just checking to see if it says, and I see nothing. Fresh ginger will be milder. Because it's got more water in it yet. I'd say just try it and see what happens. Because a lot of those things, it's liver and kidney problems are digestive problems. It's because your digestive system isn't taking care of the toxins. It isn't taking care of what's going in properly. So then your liver and kidney have to take care of it. And your lymphatic system has to. So I'd give it a go and then see how you feel. But I'd play with it and just see how you feel. And if you start to feel great, because it's, like I said, it's an issue of digestion and supporting your digestion. And if you support your digestion, your liver and kidney will come online and function appropriately. And a lot of those spices bring in those flavors, the tastes that help your liver, with the goal of keeping everything in balance. So ginger whip. Yeah.
okay.
Oh,
So now I guess I'll start trying the ginger tea again, because I really backed off because I really wasn't sure, which step to take with that. And it was like, okay, so
yeah.
it was like a lot of people feel, which weed do I want to try? Like, well, I can't make you try any of them because I'm not even that familiar with a lot of them yet, but I'm working my way through it.
Right. Well, you start with the one that calls your attention to it. And start the amount that your feels right. Like a bag of ginger tea is too much for me. I don't like that much unless my stomach's already off. But I like ginger in a lot of things. So
yeah,
like that. Yeah. Yeah. It really boils down to that safety thing and listening to your body, honoring what it tells you, paying attention to what comes to your mind and attention, even if it's uncomfortable. If it draws your attention, there's a part of you that's saying, we need this. And then just start in little bits. Fennel can be strong. So start with little bits. Another trick with all of the spices that are seeds is to grind them fresh. If you have a mortar and pestle, just the aromatics perk up your digestion and prime the pump before you go to eat. And Amanda and I were talking earlier about how much smell is part of your taste. So when you talk about the 6 tastes, when you get that smell in there, you're already tasting it and your tissues are already responding. So you can have even small amounts and get the benefits from them.
Okay.
But where a lot might be too much, like the turmeric, it's just too much. You just need a little tiny bit.
Okay. Well, I found that one of the memberships that I have, I can get like an essential oil of like fennel or curcumin. coriander. But I
Yeah.
haven't tried them yet. I mean, I've got the coriander, but I haven't got the fennel or anything yet. So
So here's the thought on that, is that these things come, especially if you get the seeds, get the whole thing, they come as a package. And the whole package matters, including all of the stuff that's on the seed. All the microbiotic stuff helps interact in your system to nourish it and make it more bioavailable to your body. That's why eating the skins of vegetables matters. You know, rinse off the big chunks of dirt, but it's good stuff.
okay, so is that something that the whole plant, you know, the whole plant is usable then?
Yes. Okay. Yep. In one way or form. When you get it distilled into a tincture or an oil, you lose the benefit of that whole plant or of the whole
I often
seed.
wondered that.
Right. Yep.
I know in some cases with some plants, it's actually like very beneficial to be able to have that kind of strength, but in others, I can see how they could lose their capability of performing at their highest peak.
Yep. Yep. And so for the most part, unless you are like truly sick and truly need medicine, the more you can incorporate all these tastes and guard your digestion by not overtaxing it or giving it things that kill the digestive fire, which is what a bad combination will do, your body will start to pull all that nutrition out, and it'll pull out the building blocks that it needs. You know, your food becomes your medicine when it's used medicinally, you know, with our when you eat and now what you eat, eating for your dosha. So if you haven't done one of those tests, it's interesting. And if you do the Banyan Botanicals one, they will send you 10 printable pages of information on taking care of you. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Then your food has become your medicine. And you don't need medicine unless life happens. And yeah.
Yeah. Well, and that's something else too. I kind of realized this week too, is like, I really have slipped as far as getting into my studies and getting it done, even with some of my other ones. It's like, all right, so I've got to keep more of a positive attitude, make sure I get to these meetings and do what I've got to do, because without them, I really feel like I'm alone. And no, I'm not.